Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello, welcome back to the channel and welcome to South Africa, where behind me is the brand new Audi RS7 Sportback. It is actually at this moment ahead of the full unveiling of this car. We're on a private road with an opportunity to take a very first look at the RS7 Sportback to show you the ins and outs, the new technology, have a look at the interior, and then to go for a drive to see what it's like. So let's get started then and check out the new Audi RS7 Sportback. Let's get started going through the details. I'll take you all around the car, but just a moment, glance over at this view near to Cape Town here in South Africa, with this road exclusively shut for the purpose to drive and discover the flagship model of the A7 Sportback range from Audi Sport, the Audi RS7 Sportback. So let's take it all in then. It's wider, it's more powerful, but it mixes that 5-door hatchback style that offers interior space and comfort. The car has luxury technology, but also with more sportiness. Audi RS or Audi Sport injecting more sportiness into the RS model. So to talk about the design, the car is wider, it has a more powerful engine. In fact, the 4-litre biturbo V8 up front is making 600 horsepower. We'll have a look at that very shortly. It's got permanent all-wheel drive, but power can be distributed. We'll talk more about that as well, and the different driving modes, including the new Audi RS1 and RS2 modes that you have that are configurable. Around the front, let's go into the design. The grille is slightly narrower, accentuating even more of the width with this new design above. Flanked either side are Audi's Matrix laser lights, full LED technology. You can see inside the way they're composed. They also give you an animation sequence, as does the light around the rear. You've got the carbon fibre options here, flanking the vents, the splitter as well, and the car is fitted with ginormous 22-inch wheels that are an option on the car. 21-inch wheels are standard, as opposed to the 20-inch wheels on the previous generation. It's a new wheel design, and inside, with the Audi Sport carbon ceramic brakes, you have the 440mm discs at the front, 370 at the rear, ginormous stopping power. Carbon fibre again for the side skirt, and we come round towards the back of the car, which, as always for an Audi RS model, has those signature tailpipes, the large oval exhaust tips inside of this carbon fibre diffuser as well. And above that, the full width LED tail light that also has the animation sequence, really just to accentuate the width of the car too. Above here, you have the spoiler, but being this coupe-like shape, but with additional practicality, let's come around to take a glimpse at the interior and also pop open the engine bay. Now, before we get inside the car, here I've got the key, the new smaller style Audi key, and of course on the back with the RS logo. It's keyless, so I'll pop that away in my pocket, and then you simply, obviously on the back of the door handle to unlock. Then you've got the electronic door release latches, so you just pull this a tiny amount and it pops it the rest of the way, to be greeted on the inside by the triple digital displays. You have the Virtual Cockpit that you can configure, and the 2 MMI displays in the center, the upper screen for the infotainment, the lower screen for your climate control. We'll come back and go through all of the interior in a little bit, but for the moment, let's just pop this open and come around and have a look at the engine bay and talk a bit about this new V8. So the car is an MHEV, a mild hybrid. That means it's got the 48-volt system that supports the power, so for coasting up to 160 kilometers per hour, or for stop-start at lower speeds below 22 kilometers per hour, basically just meaning it can be slightly more efficient, along with cylinder deactivation and other technologies. Now this V8, 4-litre biturbo V8, 600 horsepower, up 40 from before, and 800 newton meters of torque, up 100 newton meters from before. That means with the permanent four-wheel drive system, 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.7 seconds. It will go on to a top speed of 280 as standard, or with the optional increase up to 305 kilometers per hour. That's quite a powerful statement piece at the top end of the car. Anyway, let me just close down the bonnet for the moment. We'll experience that while driving. In terms of the four-wheel drive system, it can distribute up to 70% to the front if required, or up to 85% to the rear if required. Talking about the rear, let's have a quick look inside here so you can see how much space there is available. Not bad in terms of legroom when you consider the seats at the front are forward where they would be for normal driving, and now with the bench seat configuration offering a third passenger in the rear as well, as opposed to purely the 4-seat configuration that was available on the previous generation. So that's an option. You can have it either way, as you see, with soft close as well. well on the doors to pull them in snugly. Now we've got the sun out on the Tango Red paintwork, launch colour of the car as presented here. The dual tone wheels with the carbon. You can have a number of different finishes and trim options available, but it's certainly looking the part as a really kind of top of the line statement car. That's literally where it comes in. So let me take a step inside just so I can start the car up and we can hear how it sounds coming into life with this V8 before it'll be time to take it for a drive. So into life it burbles. Of course, you can change what's on the display, go through various different settings. Remember, this is ahead of the full reveal, so this is a car not completely set up. In here you now have the RS badge you can see there on the car settings, and you also have the RS mode here, which you can go through your different RS driving modes. Let's just go through these just for 1 second. Look at that. Look at this new view that you get. So there we go into RS2, we go back into normal. So I've just popped that back into normal so you can see how this looks. There we go, with the G meter at the moment. You can have it set how you would like. One press of RS mode, and you go into RS mode 1 with that new rev counter. The exhaust system opens touch as well. You're going to hear more of that while we're driving. RS2 is currently set to lower traction control, as you can see as well. So there's a lot to explore and discover, but shall we kick off then and take the car for a first ever drive? I cannot stress enough the significance that I am now driving this car on a road that is completely shut for me, but also at this moment in time, this is basically the only one. So I've got a short amount of driving experience with it to just get a small feel for what it's going to be like as we head on down the hill. Of course, being a closed road, that means we can explore. No traffic is coming the other way. We've got radios to make sure it's completely open and clear. So I'm just letting the car cruise on downhill before we can open it up a little bit more coming back up. But like the A7 Sportback, you have rear wheel steering. It was an option there. It's standard on this car, which just makes the car shrink around you, and it immediately feels a little bit smaller than you might think. Now we're driving in South Africa and in a left-hand drive car, so I should be on the left side of the road, but it's open. It's just for us, so I can kind of get away with doing whatever I would like to do as we descend down the hill. Now Audi Drive Select has changed. In the past you had auto, comfort and dynamic, and I'm going to press the button here just beneath the touchscreen to pop it into dynamic mode, where things just sharpen up the steering, the throttle response, the noise of the exhaust. But this is where you now have the additional RS modes, RS1 and RS2, where you can change it and basically set the car exactly how you would like it. And we have the 8-speed automatic gearbox in here, of course, which does a wonderful job, very smooth, very seamless, nothing really to fault it for when I'm driving like this in sport on the gearbox, but basically automatically, just descending down the hill. Get a little bit of feel from it, and the noise of that soundtrack. Now of course the MHEV nature of this, the 48-volt system, means that the car has this ability to coast at slow speed, and I'm actually going to turn around in this space to head back up. So it can coast at slower speed, and it can also use that to support the stop-start systems. So as we spin right around, of course we've got the bird's eye cameras to make that super easy. We can push the gear shift to the right hand side to go into manual. We've got M1 now on the dashboard in dynamic mode. So this is where if I press the RS mode once, we get that awesome view of the rev counter, and we get even more throttle feel. So yep, 600 horsepower, 800 newton meters. Love the way it flashes to indicate upshift. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? This is literally early stage testing. Definitely feels like it shrinks around you, and it moves the weight very, very quickly. I don't think anybody's going to suggest it's the lightest car out there. Of course, with the four-wheel drive system, that adds a weight penalty, but it does, with that, obviously give you the benefits of four-wheel drive. For example, 0 to 62 miles an hour, 100 kilometers per hour in just 3.7 seconds, but also extra traction when conditions aren't necessarily the best. This is stupidly cool to be driving on a road knowing it is completely open and empty just for me, twisting and turning up the hill. Okay, starting to get a feel for this. Being very aware that this thing is particularly important at this moment in time. This is definitely verging on the unnatural side when you can literally drive on both sides of the road. But let's pop it back into comfort mode for the minute. So go with the, well, press the RS mode to take it out, or firstly into RS2, then back into normal, where you can of course toggle and go into comfort mode, which will obviously allow the car to be a little bit more floaty, ride over some of the harder bits of ground. Yeah, you can feel that the adaptive suspension changes immediately, but you do also feel, of course, the extra body roll, which is why you have this ability to adjust and adapt and make all of the settings change to the style of driving, or you can leave it in automatic, where the car will work out what you want as you're driving, which just makes life even easier. In general terms, the equipment level in here is phenomenal. Of course, it has the lane guidance assistant, so it actually feels where the lines are and kind of tugs at the steering wheel and pulls it back. You have all sorts of sensors, the radars, lasers, everything for adaptive cruise control, for impact protection, for everything you can think of. The assists in this car are literally through the roof. There is everything. You have the Bang & Olufsen sound system that rises up out of the dashboard. Of course, you have these lovely triple displays which have the haptic feedback. Now, the move towards touch controls has one challenge to it, which is, of course, you do need to look at what you're pressing. You can't physically feel the button, but when you do look at the displays, they are very bright, very clear, and offer an awful lot, so they do work rather well as a result. You can bring up different displays on the dashboard depending how you like it. For the minute, I've got the power and torque chart as well. Of course, as we're coasting downhill, I'm not using the throttle pedal at all. And the steering wheel itself is small, good grip, Alcantara in here, which I really, really quite like. And we kind of just cruise down the road and life is all very easy. The seats are very comfortable. There's a new finish to the seats. We can see more of that shortly. And the general quality of the interior is very, very good. Of course, something Audis are known for. It is funny with this short stretch of road, but this is all to do with just closing it briefly. And that beep, by the way, if you're wondering, is of course the sensors detecting. So we can turn it around. It's also very quiet in here. It's very quiet, very relaxed, very peaceful. I mean, case in point, right? And we're riding over some cobblestone ground here, and even that's pretty smooth and gentle. Now, let's just pop it back into RS mode, because I think that's where the fun happens. Pushing the gearbox to the right, the G-force meter, the power and torque charts, and then unleashing. I do like the upshift graphic that you get. So, a short little drive, not getting to experience too many different environments, but for a car where you could travel previously with 4, now with 5 people, in style, in comfort, with lots of technology, it's clearly doing a very good job of that. It offers an awful lot in the one car. Yes, it's quite similar, I would say, to the A7 Sportback, but of course it builds on that. It takes that earlier car, if you could say. They have reworked quite a lot of it, introduced a lot of new technology, changed all but 4 of the exterior panels. And just driving around, it actually holds really quite flat as well as we go around these corners. It's so strange being able to go on both sides of the road, but what a road to be driving it. This is a really, really cool location, using the whole of it, heading back up the hill. Yeah, I'm quite enjoying this. That thing about right car for the right environment, this isn't a bad way to go. Naturally, you can, if you want, change the exhaust and have it a little bit quieter, but in my mind, it does let in the right amount of noise for this kind of car. You have to remember that it's effectively like a luxury sedan with slightly more driving dynamic prowess, in the sense of both visually looking sportier and giving you more sense that it's a sportier car, but also in terms of the structure, the chassis, the strengthening of it, and the way it's set up to drive. So I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying what we know about the car so far, and of course remember that this is ahead of launch. Things are slightly subject to change, but it does feel pretty complete to me. I expected to be spending more time in a sense of it's a prototype, but it feels like a completed car ready to go out and drive. The brake power is very smooth. Everything happens gently. The door handles were a good example. The soft closed doors themselves, the windows when you shut them, pull up very, very gently. In fact, they slow down just before they close, and they have lots of glazing, which is why it's quite so quiet and calm when you're inside the car. It's just funny for me not knowing which side of the road I want to drive on, because it is all for me. So first impressions, pretty good, I have to say. I feel very comfortable driving the car straight in. It's easy to position. Of course it's large, of course it's wide, but it doesn't, I guess, terrify you in that sense. I think we're getting used to cars in general just getting slightly larger and growing as time goes by. I'm finding even here
picturing myself driving it on a more normal road, shall we say, you know, a regular driving environment, that it would do, I'm just going to go beyond the hairpin this time, that it would be a comfortable car to cruise in, to cruise a long distance in. That Gran Turismo style character, you know, long distance, Grand Tourer, drive the car, take it a long distance, just leisurely cruise with a lot of luggage space, and there is a lot. 565 litres in just the boot, and then about 1,600 if you actually open the boot and have all of the space in the rear as well. And of course 5 or 4 passengers, depending how you want to have it. This time then, I get to head all the way back up to the top, up the entire road, so we can enjoy the sporty element just a touch more. I'm going to go into sport, actually no, into manual, and go manual. Yep, can't read traffic signs because there aren't any here at the moment, but opening up around the hairpin, in sport mode you can definitely feel that it's all firmed up. In RS mode, I should say. RS mode 2 is currently set to reduce traction, obviously more at home on the racetrack if you do that than where we are right now, but just listen to some more of that engine sound as we head on up the hill. Alas though, I think I'm coming towards the end of my allotted time to experience the new RS7 Sportback on the road. So let's pull back into the lay-by just here, because I want to show you a few more things about the interior, some of the details, some of the new features introduced for the RS7 that weren't necessarily in the A7, as well as a bit of a reminder, because they have upgraded and included quite a significant amount more. So when you press it into park, you'll actually knock the lever over, very nice. Let's take a better look. Let's take a look then at everything that's going on here, and just look at these displays. A lot of information very clearly presented. So the virtual cockpit in front of you, one thing that's immediately noticeable that's changed to me is when you're in park, you will now see the rev counter being blocked off just beneath 4,000 there. If I go into gear or into neutral, you can immediately see how that then goes up in speed. And another thing, by the way, if you're in manual and you press P, the way that moves back over is quite a nice touch as well. So this display we've seen in many of Audi's models across the range. You can configure and change various things, so you can go to the larger display, you can bring up various different radio, navigation, telephone, depending what you'd like it to show really. You can set all of that and have different views and cycle through the various screens. So a lot of information, very easily accessible, all done through the left-hand side here. You've got another range of information that you can now bring up here in the central screen. So this is the haptic touchscreen when you press that. Here, for example, we're in the car settings. If you go into Audi Drive Select, where I mentioned earlier you go through the main driving modes using the buttons here, this is where, over to the right, you can configure RS1 and RS2. So pressing on those, the drive system, the suspension, the steering, the engine sound, and the Quattro with sport differential. So you've got a lot of settings you can go through. I love that, being able to configure cars and set them up completely how you want. Then alongside that, the RS monitor, check this out as well. Of course, if you were driving, you get your tyre pressure information in here. You can swipe it along and you can get temperature information, breakdown of the car. You can see from the driving we've been doing, the sport diff hasn't been pushed too hard, and you've got another display there for the maximum G-meter values. Somebody's been driving this quite decently as well, looking at those numbers. So you've got all of your usual settings and things that you might want to configure in there. Go back to home, media, radio, telephone, navigation, you name it, all easily accessible. The car is connected. You can see we've got a signal up top. You can pull down the top to get some hotkeys as well, and it just works very neatly, and it's also integrated quite well. So like in the A7, this single piece that goes all the way around the outside is reminiscent of some of the exterior parts of the car in terms of its shapes, as well as having this hexagonal shape around that you spot just about everywhere that matches with the design of the front grille. It's a really nice touch that you do start genuinely to notice just about everywhere you look on all of the different components when you start exploring around the inside of the car. Then beneath that main screen, you have the second screen here, slightly smaller, so that's just over 10 inches, about 8.5 inches for this display for your climate control, and a few other toggles that you can see up top. So the rear spoiler, for example, you've got your lane guidance, your auto stop start. You can turn the displays off using the top right, and that's slightly fiddly because when you're driving you're not necessarily looking exactly down, but you can see how it works. Again, it gives you a lot of control, and it's a very nice interface. They've done a good job of that, making it all very presentable.
Continuing down, your Audi AI. Now this is where if you were parking the car, let's say you were in reverse looking for a space, the car would take over and be able to help you park. You can press this button to bring up the surround cameras and even the 3D mode. Now I love this. Look at this. We can look around the car where it is currently parked using the cameras on the exterior. This is such a cool display to be able to do that. And you've got the different angles as well, immediately jumping it depending what you want, as well as the bird's eye view. So technology, as you see, just about everywhere in here. If we press the assist button, on the right, you can see here how you can also configure which assists are turned on: distance warning, presense, side assist, intersection assist, emergency assist. You can see that you can set up a lot of different configuration elements inside this car in terms of the driving and the safety and the systems from that respect. So coming down, the gear lever, of course, goes up as per the pattern just there. The button for the automatic electronic handbrake, the automatic control of it. Then on the right hand side, beneath that carbon fibre flap, you have the key storage pouch. It can sit just in there, 2 cup holders and your 12-volt socket. Beneath the control just above for the media. Armrest as well, slightly further back. In there you've got your USB port, SIM and SD socket as well, and the NFC charging pad that you have too. The seats have this new perforation, so you can actually hit here the seat cooling should you wish to have that on, which is through the perforations in the seat. You can hear the fans, I can feel them as well. The red contrast stitch that you have in here too, and the RS badge down on the floor mats, which is another nice touch, as well as all of this carbon fibre trim, which just finishes off the interior really quite nicely. Just turn that off for the moment. So around the steering wheel, what else do we have? The cruise control, the adaptive cruise control, your light controls over to the left, of course your window and mirror controls. Just to open the door, you can see the seat controls and lumbar support there as well. Now that door handle is actually a thing on its own. The way it works with that gentle electronic release, you don't feel like you're pulling against something mechanical, so it's quite intriguing, the actual feel that you get from it as you open it. Now let's just turn the car off. It goes significantly quieter with the door open, although when the doors are closed, that glass does an amazing job of keeping the sound out. The steering wheel, I mentioned while driving, thin Alcantara, really nice feel, just updated and looks very smart as well. And if I take a step outside of the car, we can briefly have a look inside the rear of it, just so you can get a feel for how much space there is back here with the driving seat in my position. If I just climb in, yes, plentiful amounts of space, to be honest. More than adequate in the rear back here. See up top as well, a few other controls, the settings and information help, SOS, your lights of course up at the top up there. In the rear, again, even though it has that coupe roofline, there is more than enough space, if you can just see above me, to take a comfortable seat in the back, and the same feel to the rear, the screen here for your climate control, the quilting that you have for the seats. Again, just looking very, very nice and good quality. You can open up the armrest as well just to see how this works. Cup holder storage and a little storage pouch here as well at the back. Close that. So that is more or less everything I can show you today with the new Audi RS7 Sportback. Inside the boot, just quickly, of course, the covers are in here at the moment because we do have to keep the car covered wherever possible, but you can see the folding of the rear seats, the 40-20-40 split of those seats to get the full 1,600 litres of luggage capacity, powerful tailgate, so we can close that back down as well. And you get that light bar that just runs across nicely from the fenders all the way across the rear of the car. That pretty much concludes then today's opportunity to discover the brand new Audi RS7 Sportback. And what an opportunity when you consider that it's still at this moment in time ahead of the full reveal, but we've been able to take a proper look at this car and also drive and experience it here on a private road with that view behind. But you just look at the car and you can see the sporty characteristics and the intent of the car, the likes of the large 22-inch dual-tone painted wheels, the tango red paintwork with the gloss exposed carbon fibre, the Audi Sport features and characteristics, for example the triple intakes you have here just beneath the bonnet line for additional cooling, even the Audi Rings logo and the RS7 badges at the front and at the rear are also finished in gloss black to take away some of the chrome contrast accents that you would otherwise get. You have the features like the RS exclusive headlights on this car. You still have the full LED LED tail lamp as well, the full width light, and really I think it's quite clear what the car's purpose and where it sits is, and it has to be said, it does it in a pretty good way. So I hope you've enjoyed this discovery of the car with me, learning it, seeing the new features, the new functionality, the new technology, and discovering and getting a first taste for what it's like. That's it though for today with the new Audi RS7 Sportback. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers!